guys, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, the 2019 edition, that is, and that's a jolly good thing indeed. But hold on to your horses, folks, because when it comes to the quest for normalcy, we're not quite there yet. That's because the vilification and demonization of the unvaccinated continues unabated, at least in certain circles. Case in point, a new study from some Sunnybrook Research Institute scientists was just released. And get this, the study suggests that those who have an underlying hesitancy to get vaccinated against COVID-19 are the same people who are essentially bad drivers and that they get into traffic accidents. I swear, folks, I'm not making this up. The Sunnybrook shysters are basically stating that if you don't get jabbed with the COVID-19 vaccine, well, your motoring skills are equivalent to those of Toonces the driving cat. Remember that little kitty?
See, I told you he could drive.
Toonces, look out!
Well, obviously, Toonces the driving cat isn't vaccinated either now, is he? By the way, are we vaccinating cats and dogs yet? I mean, that would make a whole new profit stream for Big Pharma, aided and abetted by their cheerleaders in the mainstream media.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
But instead of this Sunnybrook study paper being used to line a birdcage, this propaganda was actually published in the American Journal of Medicine. And here are some of the details. Using a population-based approach, the study included over 10 million adults and more than 6,000 traffic crashes throughout Ontario. Dr. Donald Redelmeyer, the principal investigator and senior scientist at Sunnybrook, stated, quote, "We identified adults who had or had not received a COVID vaccine and followed each person for a traffic crash requiring emergency care," end quote. First of all, does that not seem a little weird or downright creepy to you, this business of following up on car crash victims and checking on their vaccination status? And by the way, aren't we in a healthcare crisis right now? You know, with certain hospitals at standing room only capacity. And yet there are some healthcare professionals who have enough time on their hands to cook up weird science papers. I mean, come on, guys, get back to the ER, or at least get back to your song and dance routines.
Touch this. Touch this. Touch this.
Wow, isn't that special? I guess if the nurses are dancing these days, I wonder if the dancers down at the Zanzibar or the House of Lancaster are providing nursing services. If so, finally, I now have a valid reason to patronize a strip club. But I digress. The study also found unvaccinated adults accounted for 1,682 traffic crashes, 25%, equal to a 72% increased relative risk compared to those who were vaccinated. The increased traffic risk was more than the risk associated with diabetes or dementia and second only to the relative risk associated with a history of alcohol misuse. Wow, I'd hate to see the accident stats for those afflicted with diabetes and dementia and alcoholism, and worst of all, they happen to be, gasp, unvaccinated too. Oh, give me a break. Here's another statement from Dr. Dr. Redelmeier. Quote, our study demonstrated traffic risks were 50 to 70% more frequent for adults who had not been vaccinated compared to those who had. This does not mean COVID-19 vaccination directly prevents traffic crashes. Instead, it suggests that adults who do not follow public health advice may also neglect the rules of the road, end quote. Oh man, I'm so glad Doc Redelmeier clarified that getting jabbed with the COVID-19 vaccine doesn't turn a bad driver into a good driver. You know, kind of like how being bitten by a radioactive spider might give you superpowers a la Peter Parker. By the way, for what it's worth, folks, when it comes to getting jabbed with the COVID-19 vaccine, I think I'd rather get bitten by a radioactive arachnid, even if it doesn't give me super strength and spidey senses.
That's an excerpt from my show every night. It's called The Ezra Levant Show. That's me, Ezra Levant. You can see the whole thing behind our paywall. Well, there's a lot of goodies behind there. I do a show every weeknight. My friends Sheila Gunn Reid and David Menzies and Nat and Kat have their shows too. You get a ton of content for just $8 a month. There's so much in there you won't find anywhere else. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.